This is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 170 of the Wrestlebread Podcast. So I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. I did. It was nice and quiet. I didn't really cook that much, but I hope everyone is nice and full and is ready for Survivor Series tonight. We also had Full Gear that has happened last week as well that I'm going to recap also. And I'll be going through a little bit of NXT. I did watch some of the highlights from NXT, and I'm also going to recap a little bit of Raw and SmackDown before I give my predictions for Survivor Series. So a little bit of news and rumors that was going on. Logan Paul mentioned that he wants John Cena at WrestleMania, and I think I'm okay with it. Logan Paul, whether you like him or hate him, has been really good in the ring. He's good as a heel. I don't really get him as a face. But, however, you can thank Drew Gulak for his training. Apparently, according to Wrestling Observer, that WWE has sent Paul Logan a ring to train and practice, and Drew Gulak was his personal coach. And Logan Paul did come to the Performance Center to do some training with Shawn Michaels, and, to shoot footage and stuff like that. But the bulk of the training was due to Philly's own Drew Gulak. I miss Drew Gulak on TV. I don't know. I didn't really look into much the reason why he's not on TV anymore, and he's more backstage. But damn it, the Philly wrestling hero is, the one behind Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. A lot of people were seeing WWE post a lot of footage on their social media about the Shield. And of course, people just, don't know how to do 1+1. And it was like, oh, is Jon Moxley coming back? Maybe they're showing Jon Moxley because Jon Moxley's coming back. And it's like, no, that's not the reason. The reason why they're showing a lot of Shield footage is because the Shield debuted 10 years ago on November 18th, 2012. So that's why we're seeing a lot of Shield footage. Triple H is okay with showing Jon Moxley or Dean Ambrose. And I'm going to assume that Tony Khan may have been okay with it, because I don't recall hearing Tony Khan complain or anything about that as far as footage that was being shown of Jon Moxley, who was then known as Dean Ambrose. So no, this isn't a little ploy or a secret of Jon Moxley coming back. It's just the fact that it's been 10 years since the Shield debuted, and letting us all know, especially as OG wrestling fans, that we are fucking owed to remember exactly where we were when the Shield debuted and how we felt when we saw three guys looking like security guards who appeared out of nowhere I think they attacked Ryback, on their debut. But yeah, and congratulations also in other news to Konosuke Takeshita. I forgot how to pronounce his last name, but he is now finally All Elite, which I think is a great move for AEW. When he was over here in America wrestling on AEW TV, he was very promising. I figure if Tony Khan doesn't snatch him up, Triple H will. And so Tony Khan decided to sign him. Thing is, what are we going to do with him? Where does he play with things? The issue that I have, that I'm going to keep saying until it changes with AEW, is that they don't have a lot of TV time. And so because of that, you have only but so much you can do on the roster that you have. They have more people than they do people needing for TV time. While it can work out when a lot of people are injured, it doesn't work out from week to week, where you have people missing from TV for weeks at a time. The audience tends to forget if there's any push or anything or any momentum with the wrestler. It goes away because they're gone from TV for a certain period of time. And then when they come back, it's just like, oh, I don't really know what to do with them. Which I believe is the case, if I remember correctly, with Miro or Andrade, one of them two, that was injured, but they're now healed, they're fully recovered, ready to go back to TV, but of course, they don't know what to do with them. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So they need to figure out, kind of do something similar to what, not really what WWE does, but how, picture, I guess, their WrestleMania version is All Out. Okay, get to All Out of 2023 and figure out, okay, this is who I want to be on the card at that point. This is who I want to be as champions, and then work backwards from there. That's kind of what I wish WWE kind of do. I mean, it's sort of what they do, but not exactly, because they tend to like do a lot of filler matches and stuff. But very similar to all the attention and the effort that was put into the Hangman Page becoming champion, even though, yes, it did take a long time, but there was a consistent thread as far as Hangman Page becoming champion. That's what they should do with every single wrestler in that company. If they are a jobber, okay, who are they jobbing to? How are they filling in for these storylines that I have coming up? Who you want to be as champion at the end of the day, and work from there. How is this person going to become champion? The momentum and stuff like that. Because they do have talent. They really do have talent over there in AEW, but unfortunately, not exactly that they need everything to be a storyline. They tend to do book dream matches from time to time, and they do have storylines. It's just that it doesn't feel consistent from week to week. There are weeks of Dynamite that I feel like I don't really have to watch like that, because it's either a bunch of dream matches being put together, or it's like kind of storylines that doesn't really connect with the audience like that. And two, they do tend to go towards their core audience. Like, oh, we're supposed to know who this person is. Because they're getting people from WWE over to their roster, you are bringing people from WWE over to your company now who lived in that bubble and don't know a lot of people from the indies and people from New Japan and stuff like that who are coming over. So you really got to do a job of not only introducing these people to a more broader audience, but you have to give these people a reason to care as well. Also swinging back to WWE, first of all, I wasn't really consistent with watching Raw and SmackDown. I knew that Mia Yim had came back, but when I was watching last week, I'm sitting here like, who the fuck is Mi Chim? And then I'm like, no, are we changing Mia Yim's name to Mi Chim? Seemed like we switched it back. I'm very glad with that, because that was very dumb to switch from Mia Yim to Mi Chim. Like, just make it Mia Yim. Explain that she's from fucking NXT. Like, it's not that hard. And I will get back to that point. Actually, I'm going to go to that point of how it's not so hard to just say who the person is. They did it with Sarah Logan this past SmackDown. She was renamed as Valhalla, and Michael Cole did a little snippet during the match that she is Sarah Logan, but her name is now Valhalla, and this is the reason why. She said that's the name that the gods told her to be, or something like that. I wish they kept the same energy for this debut that happened in NXT, which was scripts. And I did see some of the vignettes. I'm thinking, okay, slightly cool, whatever. I'm very interested to see what goes on. And I hear he debuts, and I'm hearing people's like, oh, it's a great debut and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to check it out, see what it is. And I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, cool entrance. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck is this? I saw one look at the gear. I don't know, like, okay, Reggie is a great wrestler. He's very good as far as, the flipping around, stuff like that. But everything, when I checked out on social media, all that everyone was talking about was, what the fuck was he wearing? He looks like a great value version of Magneto. He looks like when your mama decides that, she's going to make your Halloween costume this year, and you tell her that you want to be Magneto, and then she turns around and makes that shit. He looks like a Brokeback Mountain version of a luchador. He looks like the creative wrestler from, when you start out level 1 or something like that with a wrestling game, a bootleg wrestling game, and they like, okay, this is who you're going to be. That's exactly what the fuck he looks like. He looks like Rey Mysterio on level 1. Okay, that mask, like, there is no point of putting a mask on him. You could have simply just had him say, he used to be Reggie, now he wants to be Scripps, and call it a day. I don't get why do we have to make it so complicated? Like, wrestling fans are smart, including WWE fans. We're pretty smart. We can tell clearly, even though we're looking at eyes and a mouth. But as soon as we saw the flipping shit, we knew it was Reggie. The crowd even chanted Reggie. As many times as he wanted to let us change his mind by doing the little writing hand gesture, like, we get it. You're a writer. Your name is Scripps. You don't have to do it every 5 seconds. I don't know if it was nervousness or something like that they just told him, like, hey, anytime you get nervous, just do the writing thing. Like, every time you do a move, just do a writing thing. Like, that's going to be your one-liner type of situation. People said it was a great debut. I don't agree. Like, we could have done without the mask. If you wanted to keep him in the Halloween colors and stuff like that, make him look like he is trying to cosplay a lucha version of Michael Myers, okay, go for it. But that wasn't great, because now everybody remembers that dumbass mask that he looks like was made from a 6th grade home ec class of when some kid tried to create a Magneto class in 6th grade. I mean, my 11-year-old can draw a better lucha mask than what he was wearing. Sorry, Reggie, you seem really cool and very talented, but it just was not working out. It really was not working out. Sticking to NXT, we have Deadline coming up in December 10th, and they are introducing this new match that was talked about from Shawn Michaels. It's called the Iron Survivor Challenge, which there's going to be a men's and a women's match. It's going to be 25 minutes long with 5 participants on each side. 2 wrestlers start the match, and every 5 minutes a new wrestler enters until all 5 are in the ring. And then whoever has the most falls, which can be pinfall, submission, disqualification, when the clock hits 25 minutes, wins. And then the fall counts for 1 point, but losing a fall means that you're going into the penalty box for 90 seconds. And the winner earns a shot at the NXT and the NXT Women's Championship. And, it goes into more details about it. A lot of people are saying, oh, this kind of sounds familiar, including yours truly. I'm like, this sounds slightly familiar with this penalty box. And that's because it was something that was done by TNA. I think it's called King of the Mountain or something like that they had did. And it's very similar to these rules as well, with the penalty box and everything. I think they're in the penalty box for 2 minutes instead of 90 seconds though. But yeah, so it really is going to, it sounds cool on paper. I never seen the King of the Mountain before, so I don't know if it actually works out or not. But it seems like whoever is the last person to come in is going to have the shortest amount of time. You know what I mean? So I hopefully next they'll learn from this. I mean, I'll see how this plays out. But hopefully they'll learn that, maybe give it a short amount of time between each participant, so that whoever comes in last will at least have a good amount of time to, get points. But then again, maybe I really shouldn't complain, because it's kind of similar. You have a similar advantage or disadvantage when it comes to the Royal Rumble anyway. If you start off as number 1 or 2, you have a slim chance of making it to win the whole thing. So I guess it's kind of like those type of odds. So I guess they're going to have some type of qualifier or something to determine who's going to start out, first and second, because whoever started first and second, of course, will have the big advantage versus the person who comes out at number 5. So we'll see how it goes. I have full confidence that this is going to be a very good match. Even though we went from, black and gold NXT to colorful to non-colorful NXT, their events have been somewhat pretty consistently good anyway. So I'm going to go into a quick review of Full Gear and then the follow-up to it, and then I'll go into WWE with the Raw and SmackDown, and then my predictions for Survivor Series as well. So overall, Full Gear was okay. I would say I would give it maybe a B- or something like that. There was some good matches. There were some matches that really kind of didn't really hit all the angles. And of course, it's, some of the matches that had very weird finishes as well. And it kind of goes to show, like, like for what we got, it was 13 matches, stuff like that. Started at 7 o'clock, ended at midnight. While you got your $50 worth of wrestling, definitely. I really feel bad for the crowd. I'm going to keep the same energy for this that I did when we used to have the long ass WrestleManias. At least, this is on Saturdays where you can kind of recover on a Sunday, unless you work in retail or, hospitality or something like that, in which I feel bad for you, son. But I feel bad for the crowd because you lose energy after a while. Like, fuck, I went to Dynamite, and even with Dynamite, you have to have stamina, especially when they're doing Rampage, because they do Dark or Elevation beforehand. They do the 2 hours of Dynamite, then it's like maybe a 15-minute intermission, and then they do Rampage. By the time you get out of there, it's like midnight. Like, you showing up, especially if you're trying to show up for Dark Elevation, you're showing up at like 7 o'clock or something like that, and you're like getting out at midnight, you're tired as hell. A lot of times that's why Rampage don't really come out like, the crowd is so hype. Because it's the end of the night, it's a Wednesday, you're like, damn, like, I want to stay for this, main event match, of course, something like that. But you're tired after a while. And so this crowd, they died a couple of times. They weren't, hype all the way through. Unfortunately, you'll get maybe a Chicago crowd, New York, or possibly a Philly crowd that could be hype all the way through, but you have to really give the crowd something to really be hype about in order for them to like be consistently loud all the way through. So I really felt bad for the crowd. That's them, sitting and standing and getting hype and everything like that for a good 5 hours, and some of the matches they were completely dead. And while it would have helped with some moments, but you really can't blame the crowd for just like getting tired as fuck towards some of those matches. All right, so I did not tune in that much to the pre-show. I knew it was going to be Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in the Eddie Kingston match, but I had no idea that we were going to get a 10-man tag, so I completely missed that. I watched a little bit of the highlights from the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, Rocky Romero, and then a mystery person versus the Factory. And I saw that it was Danhausen. That's the only part I tuned in was there looked like a repackage of a character, or maybe a character that he was previously. There's a lot of people reacted to it very highly. I like Danhausen. He has a very cool look and stuff like that. So I have no commentary on the match because I didn't watch it at all. I completely missed it. So then I tuned in and I caught most of Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage, and this is the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament semifinals. I'm such a huge fan of fucking Ricky Starks. He calls himself Stroke Daddy. I'm not gonna do that here. But I really like Ricky Starks, and we're all just waiting for this motherfucker to just put the damn strap on him and shoot him to the stars. Unfortunately, this has to happen with Brian Cage, who, they tried to get him over, but, to me, in my opinion, he just wasn't connecting with the crowd like that. He went off, I think he went to Impact, I think it was, and, got a little bit more momentum there, and then he comes back here, and it feels like, well, he's in Ring of Honor, mainly. And we're just all waiting for Ring of Honor to get a TV deal or something like that. And maybe he'll get more time to shine there. However, I am so fine with Ricky Starks winning it here. And we're going to get a match between him versus Ethan Page for the shot at the world title at Winter is Coming. Even though it don't really matter who wins here, because obviously they're not going to win the title. But I appreciate the fact that we're getting a little bit something here for fucking Ricky Starks. Spoilers, he went on to face Ethan Page at Dynamite and then won. So now he is going to get a title shot at Winter is Coming. Would I love for him to eventually become champion one day? Yes. However, the way AEW works with this championship belt, whoever is the AEW champion is AEW champion for a significant amount of time. We had the shortest of range this year, but that's mainly because of injuries and, the fuckery that happened after All Out and whatnot. But normally everyone has been holding the belt at least 6 months or more. So with, with this belt, the person, well, we all know MJF won it, but MJF is going to hold the title for a significant period of time. Who knows when he's going to eventually lose it, but he's not going to be losing it, unfortunately, next month to Ricky Starks. So hopefully they will swing Ricky Starks, over to the TNT title or something like that. He was the FTW champion. I'm hoping they swing him to the TNT title eventually as well. So after that, we had Eddie Kingston going to, I think it's Jun Akiyama, which, it was a very dream match for Eddie Kingston. It came about the Rampage the night before. It was, the standard match. I really like Eddie Kingston, but I'm going to be quite honest. Is the same thing with Bray Wyatt, where the promo skills outweighs what happens in the ring. Not saying like, Eddie Kingston is bad in the ring or anything like that, but the promo skills is far superior than what happens in the ring. Eddie Kingston wins here. Of course, he got emotional, stuff like that, because he's been wanting to face Akiyama for the longest of time, stuff like that. So it was a bit of a feel-good moment for me and stuff. Truthfully, I'm going to be 100% honest. I really didn't connect to this. I didn't really connect to Akiyama. I don't know who he is like that. I don't really watch any of his matches. So, but I did connect to, wanting to go against your hero and stuff like that. So this was a bit of a feel-good moment, stuff like that. Then after that, we get to the start of the pay-per-view. We had Luchasaurus going against Jungle Boy. I kind of missed some of this match. However, this was a pretty good match for these two. I'm very surprised that we had Luchasaurus lose here by submission. I don't think that's a very, it works for Jungle Boy, but I don't know how good that works for Luchasaurus as far as being this big guy, big threat, stuff like that. He was the muscle behind Christian Cage and whatnot, and we have him kind of tap out here. I would have appreciated if there was a little more done with the finisher. If you really wanted to do it by submission or something like that, I'd rather for him to have passed out or something like that. Or, have Jungle Boy do a bunch of crazy shit or something like that. I mean, he puts Luchasaurus through the table, and then that's what kind of gets him to tap out. You know what I mean? So the finish didn't really match the big portion of the finish. The finish didn't match the match, if you get what I'm saying. I feel like we could have did something a little better here as far as the finisher. Have him pass out. Like, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal than to have him tap out, because obviously him tapping out is definitely the finish of between Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus until whatever, I guess, they get back together or they're going to continue this. We all know this is going towards Jungle Boy and Christian Cage once again, but I wish they could have done a little bit more to kind of put a little more emphasis that, yeah, Luchasaurus is, I know he's a dinosaur, but the motherfucker is tough. You know what I mean? So then after that, we get the AEW Trios Championship, Death Triangle going against the Elite, which had, if you wonder whose side fucking Tony Khan was on when this whole All Out shit went off, look at this return. Look at the, the red carpet and the bells and whistles that the Elite got. Whether you love them or hate them, in my opinion, I know there's a lot of people that don't really like them. Chicago let them know that as well. However, they can only get away but so much as their promoters and their boss let them get away with it. So if you're upset at the Elite, you feel as though they're a bunch of jackasses, stuff like that, be upset with the person who allows the jackasses to be the jackasses, okay? Because it wasn't the Elite who paid the money for the fucking song rights and the elaborate ass entrance that they got again on Dynamite. I thought that song was a one-off because you had to pay licensing rights to play that song. I thought that, that it was a one-off. It seems like we're going to keep this going on. What was it? Carry On, that was playing. which is the song of their entrance music and everything. So, you know, be mad at Tony Khan for giving the fucking Elite this elaborate ass return. So, however, I am a fan of the Elite in the ring. And this Death Triangle versus the Elite, I'm all for. Apparently, Tony Khan feels the same way because we're getting the best out of 7 out of this shit. Which, you know, the best of 7 had worked out when we had it against Cesaro and Sheamus, ironically. When that was first announced, I'm like, okay, I'm a little weary of it because how are you going to repeat the same match 7 times and make it feel different? And I'm hoping that's what we would get with this best out of 7 here. Because, you know, you could have done it like individually or something like that, kind of mix it up here. But, you know, I'm just hoping no one gets fucking injured. Because while, you know, yeah, Cesaro and Sheamus was more ground. I think that's who it was that got the best out of 7 in WWE. I may be completely wrong. But I could have sworn that's what it was. And then they tag teamed as the Bar. I think they got the best out of 7. But anyway, you know, but the difference is that everyone is, you know, flying off the handles. As I keep saying, Rey Fenix is not a human being with some of the insane shit that he does. And I'm hoping nobody gets injured because they had to pull out shit out of their ass 7 times. In the next 5 times now, from here on out. So now we're getting the best out of 7. And they said that whoever wins the best out of 7 gets the title. So I'm like, well, obviously this is going to go to match number 7 here. Unless, you know, we pull some surprise or something and then say, okay, they won 4 times here in a row. We're going to end it right here. Who knows? But anyway, this was a very good match. I'm slightly happy that Kenny Omega got that bit of time off because he came back looking jack as shit. He was like 100% back to his usual self. We don't have to really worry about, oh, is he still injured or anything like that. This was a really good match. In my opinion, the match of the night. And yeah, this was the match of the night for me. Because as much as I love my technicians, as much as I love my story matches, stuff like that, like one of my favorite WrestleMania matches is Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, the technician, you know, the technician stuff like that. I love a good story and stuff. But my gosh, I love my flippy shit sometimes. I love my spot fests. You know, I love to go wild and stuff like that every once and again. And that's what we get here with Death Triangle and the Elite. With this match, of course, which led to a bit of fuckery at the end with Pac. Yeah, I think it was it was Phoenix that was about to get the one-winged angel, and Rey Fenix got the hammer from Pac, used the hammer to retain the titles. And I was completely fine with that. And then, of course, that's why Tony Khan was like, okay, we're going to do a rematch here. You know, fuck the ratings again. And we're going to do a rematch, best of 7 series type of situation. Fine. Whatever. I'm fine with that. As long as it feels like 7 different matches. They, of course, fought again on, at Dynamite. That was in Chicago. Chicago letting everyone know, which was very interesting, first of all. Kind of going back here, very interesting the differences between the 2 fan bases that we got at Full Gear and then the fallout at Dynamite. Those fans were saying fuck CM Punk and chanting for Colt Cabana. All of a sudden people are Colt Cabana fans. Okay, you know, fine. Well, we'll see if you guys keep that same fucking energy in 2 years then. Buy his merchandise and everything like that. If you're going to suddenly be Colt Cabana fans, ride that fucking wagon till the wheels fall off. Don't hop on here because you're anti CM Punk, okay? You were chanting fuck CM Punk and all this other stuff. And then we go to the Chicago crowd, who of course booed the Elite. I don't know what they were chanting or anything. I think they were saying fuck the Elite or fuck the Young Bucks or something like that. Not 100% sure. And then, of course, the Elite playing up to the audience to get them to hate them so much, because that's what they do. And that's when people started having a problem, like, oh, they're teasing, stuff like that. I'm like, well, what the fuck you want them to do? They're heels. They're heels in this town. They're gonna play up to the audience. Like like, I hope y'all keep the same energy whenever MJF says the shit that he says, or, you know, whenever anybody says shit that they say. Like, they're playing up to the audience, and I don't think this was a play up to say, like, maybe CM Punk is coming back. I don't know. If somehow Tony Khan is able to pull it off and get CM Punk to come back, or if this was, I highly doubt of the people with the tinfoil hats thinking this is all story, this is all work. Like, there's nothing that happened that they decided to plan this all up. Like, no, this shit actually real. There was an actual fight that broke out because people don't know how to handle their egos and, you know, don't know how to use common sense. And unfortunately, there is a CEO and owner who don't know how to control his some of his staff, unfortunately. And, you know, if somehow he is able to ring this shit back in and you know, get CM Punk to come back, be okay with being in the same fucking locker room with everyone, then kudos to him. Okay. But I don't see it happening. I think CM Punk is done. Because, you know, it is what it is. Especially the fact that they brought back Colt Cabana and gave him a title shot. And then you have the Elite coming back with this big ass entrance and stuff like that. And they immediately get title shots, first of all. Fuck all the other trios, or the trios you could put together in AEW and give them title shots. You immediately give them title shots, even though they were supposed to be on punishment and suspended. But, you know, fuck all that. You guys get title shots. But, you know, it is what it is. Okay? It's wrestling. It's gonna piss you off and make you smile at the same time. Speaking of slightly pissing off, let's go to the TBS title, Nyla Rose versus Jade Cargill. Look, I admit every single time I talk about this woman, I am so biased to Jade Cargill. It may or may not be on my bucket list to get a nice hug from Jade Cargill. It might be on your bucket list too, or because I just said it, it may now be on your bucket list. But you know, sometimes things work. Sometimes I try to defend her so much, but sometimes I cannot. And this was a match where I can't really defend her. It's because I always say, hey, you know, she has gotten better than when she first started. But it's like, has she gotten better between win number, was this 43 or whatever, and win number 37? Not really. She came out with the Thundercats gear, and, you know, I, like, marveled at her, of course. And then we had Nyla Rose, who came out with Vicky Guerrero, and they had a Eddie Guerrero type entrance, you know, chef's kiss for that as well. This was an okay match. You know, I don't, like, it's the same complaint I have with a lot of women's matches. And this isn't just with AEW. This is with WWE as well. Like, for some reason, with these matches, it's just very disjointed. I don't know, like I said, if there is a trust issue, if there is no confidence, if we're not, like, practicing, if we're forgetting spots or something like that. Whereas, though, it just doesn't work out. We see this in champions across promotions. We see this with Jade Cargill matches. We've seen this with Liv Morgan and stuff like that. We see it with Ronda Rousey sometimes, where it's just like, it's just not connecting. It's not fluid. Like, look at the difference between this and a lot of the other matches that we see on this card, where it's, you know, things kind of flow. It feels like a lot more effort was put into the matches than we have here. Like, of course, everyone calls out the spot where Jade Cargill is over the top rope and you see her fixing her outfit and fixing her hair and stuff. The spot where they were in the crowd and Jade Cargill went to flip Nyla Rose over the barricade, but she, like, instead of, I don't know, she landed kind of weirdly for it. And it's just, and you can tell that they clearly was, like, setting up for the spot. Like, it wasn't like boom, boom. You know what I mean? And it's just, like, it's very disjointed, and it happens a lot in women's wrestling. And I, like, really wish that we can get that change. Because it's really a shame. Like, the talent is there. Like, we've seen, like I keep saying, the difference between Jade Cargill when she first started and now, because she had the training with Bryan Danielson. And, you know, like, it could have been so much better here. It really could have. And here we see that Jade Cargill retained, of course, and she had the help from her baddies and everything. which she goes on to, of course, now we got the situation about Bow Wow, and I guess he's coming into wrestling. I guess he see what, Logan Paul and Bad Bunny is doing, and is like, hey, I can do that too. Let me go to AEW and do the same thing. And, we saw the footage of what happened between him and Jade Cargill, but I cracked up at the interview backstage when they tried to get a word from Jade Cargill, and she's like, I have no comment. I'm not putting any more attention to that whack ass rapper. And that made me laugh, because I seen some of his stuff on TikTok. But yeah, like, for her to get all these wins and stuff like that, it's just like, we're getting, it's not really in comparison to Roman Reigns, but it is that same feeling of like, okay, when are we dropping this title and who are we dropping this title to? Because the more that she keeps winning, the bigger the moment has to be when she loses the title. Like, she can't randomly lose the title to anyone. She has, like, I thought it would be Chris Statlander. Unfortunately, Chris Statlander is out on injury. It's like, are we going to hold the title until she comes back? Kind of similar to how I'm feeling with Roman Reigns. I feel like he's basically holding the title for when either The Rock or Cody Rhodes comes back. Like, that's, like, everybody has already put Cody Rhodes as the savior of this title reign as far as how it's going to end. And it's like with Jade Cargill, it's like, well, who is it that she's going to lose the title to? She pretty much beat the whole damn roster except for Britt Baker and Toni Storm. I think she didn't defeat Toni Storm. But yeah, it's just like a handful of people who she didn't defeat. So it's like, and whoever defeats her, like, it has to be like a big ass moment. Just like how it is going to be for Roman Reigns. It has to be a big ass moment. Can't happen on a random Dynamite. Can't happen on a random Raw or SmackDown. He's going to lose the belt at WrestleMania. We can't go through this whole 2 years for him to lose at Royal Rumble or anything like that. He has to lose at WrestleMania. Same for Jade Cargill. Whenever this moment happens, it has to happen at a big pay-per-view, unfortunately. So it's just like, I'm just hoping that, we just, like, just the women need help. And that's just in a lot of promotions. Now, of course, we get fantastic matches here in AEW. We get fantastic matches in WWE and in other promotions as well. It's just not as consistent as it really should be because the talent is there. It's just like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the confidence or trust, or we just not remembering spots or something like that, or we're just too afraid to get injured. I don't know. So after that, we had the Fatal 4-Way Ring of Honor World Championship match between Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Claudio, and Sammy. I almost did not watch this because one of the things that pisses me off that AEW has done, that WWE is very famous for, is giving us the match before the pay-per-view. Because we don't know how to build it up for the Girl Home show. So instead we get, the fucking tag team shit, which is what we got at Dynamite before Full Gear. We had Bryan Danielson, Claudio, and Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho teaming up, which is like, what's the point of me watching this fucking match if I already seen it? Like, the only difference here is the turn between Sammy and Chris and Claudio and Bryan Danielson. Other than that, like, that's the only part to watch for this match. Like, of course they could switch it up and stuff like that, but you're giving us the match before the pay-per-view. I'd rather get the rematch. I'd rather have gotten the tag team match after this pay-per-view than it's like, okay, what's the fallout between these four going against each other? But if you give it to us beforehand, and we just saw it with WWE, we got a tag team match, a potential tag team match between Ronda Rousey and Shayna and Shotzi and Raquel, and then of course fuckery happened, and then we basically get Shotzi and Ronda before the fucking match. And it's just like, no, don't give us the shit for free if you want us to turn around and pay to watch the rematch. I don't want to do that. I almost did not watch it. I'm slightly happy that I did decide to tune in to watch this match because this was a really good match. First of all, no matter how you feel for this guy, shout out to Sammy Guevara, who wrestles his ass off. Now, of course, a lot of people were talking about the cape that he was wearing. It did look a bit homemade. Which of course it was. If you saw his vlog or whatever, it was made by the seamstress. I forgot her name, but she worked for WWE as well. Bless her heart. But it looked last minute. It looked like a lot wasn't put into it. It's almost as if he just came to her that day and was like, or 24 hours ago, was like, hey, I want to wear a cape. Make it happen type of situation. But shout out to Sammy Guevara, who wrestled his ass off. And then, of course, the great spots with when Claudio had, I think he threw Sammy Guevara to the outside, and then you see Bryan Danielson just comes in with the fucking running knee out of nowhere with a close 2 count, which is like cool. And we also had Chris Jericho. I forgot what Sammy did to Chris Jericho at first, and then he went and did oh my gosh, I forgot what he did. I think he did a frog splash or something like that, or 450. He did some type of crazy ass like boom boom on Chris Jericho, and it was just like, wow. It was a pretty good match. But I just wish we didn't get that tag team match before Full Gear. That's all I wish. But this was a really good match. Like it is like right under the trios match as far as match of the night for me. I'm sure a lot of people named this as the match of the night for them, but I have to give it to the trios match, of course, because I love Death Triangle, and I am a fan of the Elite as well, and you know, these 6 men together, in my opinion, created magic. Then after that we get Saraya, whatever, going against Britt Baker. Now, this match, I really hope people wasn't, looking for a 5-star match or something like that to follow up with the Fatal 4-Way that we just had. It's kind of unfortunate for these women's matches because we had the TBS Championship follow up the trios, and then we get Britt Baker and Saraya match following the Ring of Honor title. So the crowd kind of like dies down because you're like, oh, type of situation. You're going up and down. This match, I really didn't expect this to be like great or anything. This is Saraya coming back after 6-8 years of not wrestling. So this is going to be rusty as all fuck. It's going to be, Britt Baker trying to, be the person that really holds the match together. It was okay. Of course you have to expect Saraya to win this match. Like, why have her come back just for her to lose her first match? This was the feel good type of situation. Kudos to Britt Baker and being that heel to attack the neck of Saraya, whatever. I'm gonna say Saraya. I think it's Saraya. I know they keep mentioning it on Dynamite, and I keep forgetting by the time I go to record. I'm gonna stick to Saraya. I think that's how it's pronounced. If it's incorrect, then whatever. It's incorrect. Pick a name that that we can easily remember to pronounce. So yeah, kudos to Britt Baker for attacking the neck and stuff like that. This was a slightly shorter match, I believe. I don't think it was as short as the TBS Championship match. But this was one of them feel good type of matches that is just like, okay, she made it back, and this is her first match wrestling after not wrestling for 8 years. So, it is what it is. And, we're moving on into, I don't know where we're going to go from here, if we're going to continue this match between these two, if Saraya is going to, continue wrestling regularly, or if she's going to just build up to the next pay-per-view. So we're going to, gosh, what's the next one? I think it's Double or Nothing at this point now. That we're going to build up to Double or Nothing, or I think it's Revolution now. I forgot which one, I forgot what comes next. But anyway, I guess we're going to build her up for the next pay-per-view at that point, just to kind of give her time to, I guess, get back to the swing of things, I'm assuming. Who knows? So then we go to the no DQ match, Sting and Darby Allin going against Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. This match, it is what it is. Sting needs to fucking sit down somewhere and stop, showing off to people who are half his age, or, a little bit more past half his age. You know, I just hope that by the time I get to my 60s or, 70s or whatever, that I can move as well as Sting does. I need Sting to drop that workout regimen and the eating regimen of how the fuck he can move around better than my ass. Like he's sitting here doing dives and stuff like that, which looked pretty scary. Um I thought that big guy kind of almost didn't catch him with I think it was I forgot. I think it was Saddam Singh, his name is. Oh, it looked like he overshot the dive, Sting did, but luckily he seemed okay. But this match was pretty good, of course. It wasn't as great as it could be, I would have to say. Um it is what it is. Jeff Jarrett being Jeff Jarrett stuff. I'm just hoping Jeff Jarrett definitely does a lot more backstage than he does, in front of the stage. Um the crowd giving AT&A chant and stuff like that. But of course, with Sting and Darby winning, I'm just wondering, like, what are we doing here? Are we just gonna keep throwing Sting and Darby Allin until tag team matches? Like, are they getting a tag team title shot? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we putting these two together? Like, it was all cool and good, but this has to progress somewhere. I'm sure we're done with the rankings because I'm very sure that Sting and Darby Allin definitely picked up a lot more fucking wins than everyone else. And I guess because it's not working into what they want it to be, that they decided to change their mind and go like, no, we're not going to put them in a fucking title shot. Or we're not going to turn Darby Allin and Sting against one another, which, like, sometimes is the natural progression. Who knows? So then I skipped over a match. I completely forgot. We also had the TNT title. Samoa Joe versus Wardlow versus Powerhouse. I was all for fucking Powerhouse Hobbs to win that TNT title. Pin Samoa Joe so that Wardlow can keep his fucking win streak or whatever. This match was, big meaty men, as Big E puts it, big meaty men slapping meat, and this was a pretty good match. Of course, I am not very happy with the finish here. I guess a big surprise here with fucking Samoa Joe winning this match, and then we had him getting the win on Powerhouse Hobbs so that Wardlow gets protected or whatever. Like, I would have been like, it's okay for like wins and losses don't even matter anymore in AEW because we're done with the ranking system right now. So we could have had Wardlow get choked out or something like that. Have him pass out or something. Like, have Powerhouse Hobbs do some crazy ass shit to him, and then have Samoa Joe come in and, choke him out, put him to sleep or whatever. And then you can have Samoa Joe versus Wardlow from there again or whatever. If you wanted to do it that way. I really wanted Powerhouse Hobbs to win the title. I just have that fear that Powerhouse Hobbs is going to lose this fucking momentum that people have going for him because we're concentrating too much now on Samoa Joe and Wardlow again. Kind of weird for Samoa Joe to have two titles now. Did somebody realize, we had two belt Becky Lynch or something? We decided we're going to do the same thing here or something. I don't know. Like, I'd rather for Powerhouse Hobbs to win the title and then have Wardlow concentrate on Samoa Joe or something. Like, have Samoa, like, the finish I would have had done, have the three men, continue, beat the hell out of each other. Have, Samoa Joe, crack the title into Wardlow or something like that. And then have Powerhouse Hobbs take out Samoa Joe and then pin Wardlow. 1, 2, 3. That way, Powerhouse Hobbs win the title. If you want to do the feud between Wardlow and Samoa Joe, you can do that. Because Samoa Joe already has the title, the Ring of Honor Championship. I think it was the Ring of Honor TV title or whatever. And, we could have done something here. We could have We could have had it. We could have had it. We could have. Everyone could have been happy because Powerhouse Hobbs would have had the title, and we would have had the feud between Samoa Joe and Wardlow once again. Who knows? And then after that, so then we get the AEW Women's World Championship interim, between Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm. With this whole interim thing, I was okay with the interim when we had it with Cody Rhodes and the Battle of the Belts. He got COVID or sick or whatever. He was out for 2 weeks. Okay, cool, because you had it locked in that there was going to be the TNT Championship, that you did the interim, boom, and then interim versus actual championship on Dynamite or a week later, whatever. Cool, fine. But then we get into this whole 6 months without the fucking champion, and you do this interim shit. It's just like, no, just tell the champion to relinquish the title. You get a title shot when you get back from your injury. But having this interim stuff, because now it just feels like these people have a bit of an asterisk on their championship reign because they're not the real title championship. Toni Storm had an issue with it. I don't blame her, because it's like, yo, I'm out here busting my ass, holding this title, being the face of the company, but I'm not exactly the face of the company because your champion is at home while they are injured and, recovering. They're not busting their ass out here, holding up the title prestige, And so with this match, I know a lot of people was like, oh, guys, don't make me choose here. I'm a fan of Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter as well. But this match was pretty good. It kind of went the way you expected it to be because you have Jamie Hayter squad and everything like that. Toni get busted open pretty quickly. We had Britt interfering and stuff like that, and there was a nice kick out. It was now this match, of course, the difference between this match and the TBS title, this match, it flowed very nicely. There was a display of confidence with these women. It wasn't disjointed or anything like that. Was it a little bit of mishaps? Yeah, but all matches have mishaps, but still it doesn't get like mishap disjoint type of situation. But this was a pretty good match. Jamie Hayter finally wins the title. I'm happy that she finally gets the fucking win, because the way AEW works, like she could have won another year without getting this damn title. But I'm happy that she was able to get this win. And then of course we come to Dynamite, and then it was announced, Thunder Rosa is now officially relinquishing the title because she apparently is not coming back until a couple of months later or something like that. And now it is Jamie Hayter is the official women's championship. I'm saying, like, I wish we could have got this done before Full Gear. That way, you could announce that Toni Storm is the official women's championship. And now, because now she's an interim, and I feel like it was a slight bit of pettiness on Thunder Rosa's side, because Toni Storm said a lot of shit about how she is not happy of being the interim women's title, and how there needs to be a champion, and how Thunder Rosa is actually more injured than she was. And then the next day after she loses the shit, now it's, oh, I'm giving up my title, and Jamie Hayter is now the actual championship. Like, I wish we could have had that done before Full Gear. That way when Jamie Hayter wins it, it would have felt a lot more, a lot more emotion to it, because it's her actually winning the title versus them just announcing like, hey Chicago, hey world, Thunder Rosa gave up the title, so now we have a new women's title, and then have her walk out. You know what I mean? I felt like it would have been a better, more celebration if we had this shit done before Full Gear. Like, why wait until they drop the title type of situation? Like, we could have said this shit, say, okay, no more interim, whoever wins here is the new women's champion. You know what I mean? We could have done that, but we didn't. So after that, we had the, and then some people were a bit upset because people weren't that hyped that Jamie Hayter won. Like, we were hyped that Jamie Hayter won, but it was like, she won an interim title. Like, it wasn't the real title. Now, let's take it back. Had they announced, like, whoever wins the title is the new women's championship because Thunder Rosa relinquished the title, the crowd would have been a lot more reactive, in my opinion. So after that, we have the AEW World Tag Team Championship. The Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory. We got 2 verses out of The Acclaimed here. This was a pretty good match, of course. The Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory definitely have very good chemistry between these two. And of course, the story of the possible split coming from Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee. I didn't bring my dictionary, so I wanted to use some SAT words when I was talking about this match, but unfortunately you have to deal with me speaking English with a little bit of Philly dialect here. But this was a pretty good match, of course. These two teams had very good chemistry between each other. I like the fact that Billy Gunn wasn't there at first because he didn't want to interfere in the match, because, you don't want to be blamed for one of the most popular tag teams winning the title. But then, of course, we had Swerve deciding, I think he had pliers or something like that, and he was going to go and break, I think it was Anthony Bowen's fingers or something like that. And then that's when Billy Gunn came out to, make sure everything is all cool and well. This was a pretty good match between these two. And then, of course, we had Keith Lee, who decided to be prestigious. That's one of the SAT words right there. Decided to be prestigious and said, he's not going to go on to the bad side. And so he completely walked away from Swerve Strickland. And, they, of course, loses the match by pinfall. And so now we're getting Keith Lee versus Swerve. And we have that feud going. And now we're going to see who is going to go against the Acclaimed soon, as far as who is going to go for the titles from there. And then finally, we get MJF going against Jon Moxley with William Regal by his side. And, this was a pretty good match. MJF is, I always say MJF wrestles like he is an 80s villain. Sometimes it works with people, and sometimes it doesn't work with certain people, and sometimes it works perfectly well with people. And I appreciate Jon Moxley for being, as much as he loves to, do these death matches and stuff like that, and, bleed more blood than the fucking Red Cross during their blood drives. This was a pretty good match between these two. Of course, everybody is going to talk about the finish here, where MJF was going to pull out his ring, and then he decided not to do it. I think I forgot what happened to the ring. I think he put it back in his tights or something like that. And we see William Regal tell Jon Moxley to get the referee up or something like that, because the referee got knocked down. And then he slides the ring to MJF. I think it was brass knuckles or something. And then MJF wins here. So, now we get the evil, mean-looking face of William Regal, which, he plays it so well. And then we have the new champion MJF, which we all knew he was going to win. Not really a surprise here that he was going to win. But I did like the bit of a swerve that we have here. And then we go on to Dynamite, where we have William Regal decides to show up to explain what he has done. The Chicago crowd, boos him down and stuff like that. And then we get Jon Moxley, who is ready to whoop the shit out of him. And we have Bryan Danielson, who I don't think was wearing the white t-shirt. He was wearing a beanie and stuff like that, looking like, regular old. He looked like Daniel. Not Daniel Bryan, but he looked like Dan. He looked like Dan that was on his way to Home Depot, except for he didn't have the tool belt. But, Bryan Danielson, I keep wanting to say Daniel Bryan. That's why you hear me pause every time I'm about to say his name. But you hear Bryan Danielson, explain to Jon Moxley how we all done bad things. And, let's figure out the reason why William Regal did what he did, which Jon Moxley was like, get the fuck out of the ring before I whoop your ass type of situation. And we really didn't get to hear the reason why the reason why William Regal did what he did. You know, I guess we will have to wait until we hear about this. But you know, like I said, overall, it was a okay pay-per-view. The TBS championship wasn't really that good. I really didn't like the finish of the TNT championship. It was a very long pay-per-view. Like I said, you're getting, as far as much wrestling you're getting, it's you're getting $50 worth of wrestling, but sometimes it is quality over quantity. Some matches definitely, I would say maybe some of the pre-show matches could have been on the, on Dynamite. You could have started, I don't know, like 8 o'clock is such like a start time for everyone, but like looking at this card, it's like what matches could have been taken out here. You know what I mean? Like you could have built up your Dynamites to have like crazy ass matches and then leave your title matches for the main pay-per-views. Like of course, Saraya's first match back in wrestling is definitely a pay-per-view worthy thing. But do we really need the no DQ tag team match between Sting, Darby Allin, Jeff Jarrett, and Jay Lethal? We could have made that into a storyline and threw that on a really good Dynamite or something like that. You know what I mean? But, you know, we could have, like, I feel like because there's so much going on with these AEW pay-per-views and the amount of time it takes, and you don't want the crowd to die out, we could have just kept it simply to the title matches and have this pay-per-view end like maybe at 11 instead of this ending at 12 midnight like we did for Full Gear. But like I said, overall, I would give it a B-. Could have definitely been a lot better. Like I said, you know, got to stick with quality over quantity. I feel like AEW has enough championship belts that we could just stick to the pay-per-views being title-only matches and maybe throw in a very good storyline singles match or, you know, or tag team or whatever. And maybe, I don't know, like, you gotta work here. You gotta care for the crowd that you have there. Because there is such a big difference between having a very lively crowd that is hyped for the whole night through because, you know, they're not tired, versus what we got at Full Gear where the crowd was hyped and then they weren't really that hyped because they were tired as all hell. So let's get into a WWE side. We have, like I said, Survivor Series coming tonight, and we have Theory, who is back. People, of course, thought he was being buried and stuff like that, which I knew he wasn't, because I'm like, he was in the black and gold NXT. Like, Triple H isn't going to put his boy down. Like, while yes, the cash in of the briefcase wasn't very, didn't work out for him, I appreciated that he cut such a very good promo of explaining why. Like, first of all, he tried to cash in plenty of times on Roman, and he has, like, so much protection around him. He has more protection than the fucking Secret Service provides. And so, of course, it wouldn't make sense to try to cash in on Roman again because somebody is going to interfere and, you know, cause him to not be able to cash in or possibly lose. So he decided to cash in on Seth Rollins, and then Bobby Lashley got involved. And so, you know, it seems like Theory is dropping the selfie type of situation. He's just going to go out there and whip ass. And I'm completely fine with that as well. We also have Emma and Madcap. I guess they are friendly or sleeping together. I don't know what we're doing here. But it seems like we're working towards a mixed match between them and Karrion Kross and Charlotte. And like I had said, I warned people that, you know, sometimes this, you know, Triple H booking, it's not going to hit every single time, because while it worked with NXT because you have a smaller group, you know, you only have 1-2 hours to work out every single week, you know, and you don't have the pay-per-views every single month like with NXT. Here we have a very large roster. You have 5 hours of TV time to work with, and you have a pay-per-view every single month. So just full warning, Triple H is going to book something that's not going to make you happy, that's not going to really make sense, stuff like that. Just keep the energy, you know what I mean? Just keep the energy. So yeah, this Karrion Kross and Scarlett, I feel like we're working towards a mixed tag match between Emma and Madcap. Whether it works or not, I don't know. It's up to them for it to work. But I found it like, maybe because I didn't really watch the lead up to why Emma and Madcap are suddenly friendly, but it didn't really make sense at all. Shout out to Sami Zayn, who is working so hard to break everyone, especially Jey Uso. Sami Zayn is hilarious without even trying. So him getting Jey to crack when they were in the that locker room segment where he walked away and he go over to Jimmy and he goes, "Hey," and they start doing the fucking they started doing the handshake while Sammy's like, "Hey, that thing that happened, I'm gonna tell you about it later," and it cracked Jey immediately. LA Knight versus Bray Wyatt. I don't think it's a great idea. While, yes, on paper, you may be excited about it, but it's like, this is Bray Wyatt's first feud back, coming back to WWE, and this is LA Knight's first feud since becoming LA Knight. Not a lot of people watch the Black and Gold NXT, so not a lot of people are familiar with LA Knight, or Eli Drake as he was in NWA. And so I don't think this is a great idea because someone's going to lose here. And I'm afraid, well, of course, it's going to more likely be LA Knight. Unless, this other personality or whatever comes in and costs Bray Wyatt to lose here. That's the only way I can see LA Knight winning and having Bray, kind of stay strong here. But I feel like LA Knight's going to lose, and that's really going to damper on the gimmick, and it's not going to get over as much as we would like for it to be. And I'm more concerned about Bray Wyatt now, because I'm hoping he gets booked right. I don't want him cutting these amazing promos and stuff like that just for him to be booked poorly. And while, yes, it's Triple H and stuff like that, The Fiend was booked nicely until he went after the title. While on paper, you get the title, you get the custom made title that you sold for $900 or whatever. The Fiend as a character really shouldn't have cared about getting the title. And I'm hoping that this, because Triple H put the warning out there that Bray Wyatt has a million ideas that he wants to happen at the same time, which I completely relate to. I want to do 10 different things. I'm doing this podcast, but I want to stream. I want to do this. I want to do voiceover work. I want to do all this other stuff. And it's just okay, I need to rein it in. And I'm hoping that when it gets reined in, though, that it just makes sense. That we're not letting him take 5 million ideas and putting it to 5 ideas, because even that part, it won't make sense or go very well. So I'm hoping we're sticking to one cohesive idea that will make sense from beginning, not really to an end, but from now to maybe a year from now. What are we trying to accomplish a year from now? And we're sticking to that. We also have this World Cup tournament with SmackDown, and I was looking at the bracket, and I'm seeing, because whoever wins gets the shot against Gunther, and I'm like, I really hope they don't fucking make Braun Strowman win this, because we're doing this World Cup thing. I'm sorry, I am hoping that America does something, but America is not going to win this fucking World Cup. We don't really care about soccer, okay? The only reason why we cared about soccer is because now we're doing something in soccer. Other than that, nobody gave a shit about soccer. We're the only assholes out here calling it soccer anyway. It's called football because you're kicking the ball with your foot. We call football, a completely different sport because the way the ball is shaped in football, even though you don't touch the ball with your foot unless you're kicking field goals or something like that, or doing kickoffs or whatever. We care more about American football than we care about the international version of football. So, I'm sitting here they better not make Braun Strowman win here, because this is probably the only opportunity, even though it is probably the only opportunity for an American to win anything that deals with the World Cup. Sorry to say, but there are a lot of amazing countries out there that are very good at soccer, as we call it here. But there are a lot of amazing countries that are very good at football, and I don't think America is going to get there. While there could be some people coming from countries that are coming to America to join the America football team to, to play in the World Cup, but, hey, I'm being real out here. We're not going to win the World Cup. If we win the World Cup, then the world's coming to an end because there's something going on here. But then we also did the bit of a storyline where it seemed like Gunther is fucking afraid of Braun Strowman, doing the heel thing and running away, which I do not like at all. Like, Gunther should have the same fucking energy for Braun Strowman that he did with Sheamus. Like, can you imagine we get the whole warrior versus warrior thing between Braun and Gunther? Like, we had that with Omos a bit with Braun. Like, can you imagine Gunther and Braun standing toe to toe, staring at each other while chaos is going on around them? Yeah, I mean, like, why can't we get that with Gunther and Braun? Like, why we have to have Gunther be the typical heel and be afraid of Braun Strowman? Like, I get the motherfucker is big, but fucking slap his kneecaps or something. Like, what? Gunther has the slap. Like, slap the shit out of his stomach or the back of his ankle or something. Like, every giant has a fucking weak spot. Like, why can't we do something like that? But as we saw here on SmackDown, we had Butch going against Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar wins, and then I'm sitting here like, yo, please let Ricochet win so we can get Flippy versus Flippy in the finals. And so we have Braun Strowman who went against Ricochet, and we had Imperium come out, and I'm like, okay, perfect. You can have Imperium come out, distract Braun Strowman so that Ricochet gets the win, which we did happen. And I'm like, Braun Strowman can, we'll have, Santos Escobar going against Ricochet. I'm rooting for Santos Escobar because Mexico does a lot more in football than America does. Sorry to say. We care more about American football than we do about international football. So I'm hoping Santos Escobar wins the tournament here. He goes against Gunther at whatever time, and then we have Braun Strowman interferes in the match so that Santos Escobar can win, and then we have Gunther going against Braun Strowman as a feud, because you don't really need a title for those two to go against each other. So I'm happy that we are getting that. It seems like we're going to get that, because I'm a fan of Santos Escobar. So let's get into motherfucking Survivor Series. So I was a little bit shocked because while we had 13 matches for Full Gear, looking at Survivor Series, we only have 5 matches. So I'm sitting here like, I waited for SmackDown because I'm like, okay, we only got 5 matches. That's it. Like, I get that we got the WARGAMES matches, which is going to take a lot of time for the pay-per-view. But I thought we would get a little bit more because I'm like, okay, we're missing some titles and stuff like that. Where are we adding more to this? I waited at least until SmackDown was done to see if we'll get a little bit more, but we didn't. We didn't. We only got this, these couple of matches here, and a day is a day. Now, granted, all the titles are in the fucking bloodline. That's why we're not getting any additional titles, but I at least thought we would get something else here. But it is what it is. So starting off with the U.S. Championship, we have Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory. Now, this would be the perfect opportunity for Austin Theory to win the U.S. Championship, kind of reestablish him as this new persona that he's taking on. And we can continue on with Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley. Like, granted, as much as I am a big fan of Bobby Lashley and as much as I'm a fan of Seth Rollins, they don't really need a title. They don't really need a U.S. title, I should say, in order for them to be really put over. Bobby Lashley needs to get hit hard on his head for him to remember that he lost the title that he didn't technically lose. So, I'm hoping that he realizes that sooner or later. Maybe he'll realize it once Roman Reigns loses the title to Cody Rhodes and he decides to go after Cody Rhodes. Who knows? But those two do not need a title in order to really be put over. I feel as though Austin Theory kind of needs the title right now because he definitely has to establish himself as a dominant, with a dominant persona here. And I feel like Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley are definitely the wrestlers that need to be put into the main title. Unfortunately, you can't do it right now because Roman Reigns isn't losing that title to WrestleMania to the man who, was able to defeat racism, which is Cody Rhodes, apparently. So I'm going to go here with Austin Theory on this one. I more likely would be completely wrong and Seth Rollins will retain the title again. Because it could be the decision for Seth Rollins not to use the U.S. Championship until maybe Cody Rhodes comes back, and then, we go on from there. Now, something that could happen, because there was a little bit of a tad bit that was dropped by Brandy Rhodes, who said that her husband is pretty much back to himself. It could be that, Cody Rhodes then pulled off a fucking John Cena and was able to fully recover somehow, or was able to recover enough to at least appear in WWE, possibly appear in this match, cause some fuckery, and cause Seth Rollins the title, and that's how Austin Theory wins. But I don't want Austin Theory to win that way. I want Austin Theory to win a legitimate match, not no fuckery or anything like that. If you want him to put on this new persona of this dominant persona and not have to deal with any heel tactics or anything like that, have Austin Theory win this, John. Have Bobby Lashley do some shit to Seth Rollins. I know I'm repeating what I said for the TNT title, but this is how it works with these triple threat matches. If you want to protect everyone in the triple threat match, this is kind of what you have them do. You want Bobby Lashley to be dominant, have Bobby Lashley be dominant, whip Seth Rollins' ass or even whip Austin Theory's ass. Have Bobby Lashley do the hurt lock on Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins doesn't tap or anything, but you see him starting to, you see him starting to doze off or whatever. Have Austin Theory come in, do some shit to Bobby Lashley, and, push him out of the ring, and have Austin Theory pin Seth Rollins 1, 2, 3. And that's how he wins. You know what I mean? But I'm going to go with Austin Theory here. Then we have AJ Styles versus Finn Balor. So we have AJ Styles, the OC, and Mia Yim. And we have Finn Balor and Judgment Day in his corner. So I don't know. I had a weird theory. And this was before we found out who the fifth member of Bianca's team was. That Rhea Ripley and Mia Yim were going to fight each other. Somehow both get taken out. And then we had to replace them. I was thinking that take out Mia Yim, so, I figured this would be the perfect time for Sasha Banks and Naomi to come back. One of the big 4 major pay-per-views, have them to come out and, just go from there. But, now we see that it's actually Becky Lynch who is the 5th member of the team. So I'm like, okay, we're just going to have fuckery that's going to happen on the outside. I guess have Mia Yim kind of step to... I'm going to assume this match happens before the Women's War Game match, because we're going to have Mia Yim and Rhea Ripley obviously face off from one another and go from there. This, I felt as though this match should get a lot more of a build-up than what we're getting here. Like, there was more build-up with Rey Mysterio and Dominic than we did with AJ Styles and Finn Balor. Now, while, we had the promos and stuff like that, and we had Rhea Ripley challenging AJ Styles to, do a Pele kick on her or something like that, I feel as though this should definitely have been the fucking dream match that we all been wanting of Bullet Club member versus Bullet Club member. I feel as though this, like Kenny Omega versus Jay White would have been booked a lot better than what we get here. And I'm guessing it's because we have the Judgment Day, the OC, and Mia Yim in the background, that the build up for this isn't as great as it should have been. But I think this is one of the instances like we got with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, where the match is like 20 times better than the build up, than the feud, than the build up of the feud. So I think what we're going to get in the match here with AJ Styles and Finn Balor is just going to be completely magic. Even though, once again, we've seen this kind of before when we had, I think it was a triple threat match or something like that between the two teams. And we kind of already saw AJ Styles and Finn Balor. But I'm hoping that this match would definitely, of course, I mean, we know how AJ Styles is. AJ Styles will put on a fucking wrestling match, no matter who it is. He was able to make John Cena look good in the ring. And we all know John Cena only has 6 moves in his repertoire. But he had John Cena put out I think that was when he pulled out the 6 move, or shortly after that. Who knows? But I know this is going to be a great match, and I feel like this match is going to be 20 times better than the build up for it. And I know I'm going to sit here next week and say, oh, I wish they built it up a lot better than what it did. But, it is what it is. But I'm going to go with AJ Styles here. I'm going to go officially with AJ Styles here. Even though it could end the feud here, but I feel like this could go on towards a 4 versus 4 match between these guys, since we brought in Mia Yim for some reason. But I'm going to go officially with AJ Styles here, even though it could go Finn Balor, and they'll continue to feud. But I have confidence that this is a one-on-one match. We can definitely have AJ Styles here win. Judgment Day still interferes, and we still get the 4 versus 4 match here. Next up, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey versus Shotzi. Look, I like Shotzi, especially when she was in NXT, but you're sitting here telling me that she has a fucking shot at defeating Ronda Rousey. Who knows? We've seen it happen before with Liv Morgan. So it's very possible that Shotzi could win here and they just decide to fuck with us or something. But I don't think it's going to happen. And then like I said earlier today, we pretty much already saw the match of Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey, where we had the handicap match, and then Raquel decides to come out, even though she has a quote-unquote broken arm, and tries to wrestle, and still had I think they said dislocated shoulder now. Even though I think that would cause more damage to the broken arm than anything. But, I'm not a doctor, and probably neither is the people who are trying to report this to us from WWE. But now Shotzi is like, wait, I've been bullied before, but now this is personal because they hurt the only person that stood up for me. While, that's a very good story, and we are all able to connect with that. That still doesn't convince me that Shotzi is going to fucking win this match. I feel like this will be the perfect time for Charlotte to show up or something like that. And we get back to the shit again with Ronda versus Charlotte. Who knows? But I don't see Shotzi winning. I don't see Shotzi winning here, unfortunately, for her. I think this is going to be the typical Ronda Rousey type of match where she pauses and says something to Shotzi or to the crowd before she does a move or something. I really hope I'll be pleasantly surprised that this turns out to be a very good match. I think this is just going to be a standard match. Like, this isn't going to be special or anything like that. Like I said, I feel like this is going to be a typical Ronda Rousey match. We're going to get Shayna Baszler interfering and stuff like that. And then, I feel like this match is mainly set up for someone to return. It could be Charlotte. I feel like this is the perfect time for it to be Charlotte. But I don't know. But I am happy that Ronda and Shayna Baszler are together, and Shayna is back to her, I choke a bitch out type of self. I'm happy for that. And I am waiting for when Shayna eventually turns on Ronda Rousey and Shayna wins the title. I'm waiting for that too. But yeah, I'm going to go officially with Ronda Rousey here. So next up, we have the women's War Games match. We have Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Mia Yim, and Becky Lynch going against Damage Control, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. So of course, I am so happy that we have the man back. I was not the biggest fan of Big Time Bex, even though the outfits that she was wearing was as ridiculous as her husband, but I am happy we got the man back. I'm a big fan of the man, by the way. I have the man shirt. And I have a shirt that says the mom, even though it was because Becky Lynch became a mom. But nobody knows that. So when I go to wear the shirt that says the mom, I get compliments from older women about the shirt. And I don't even explain that it's a wrestling shirt. I just say, they were like, I love your shirt. And I'm like, thank you. But if you don't know what the shirt says the mom on the front is very similar to the man shirt, which is in white letters. It says the mom, and then on the back it says, "'Cause I said so." So I love wearing that shirt. But yeah, I'm very happy that we got the man back. And so because we got Becky Lynch coming back, obviously we're going to have Bianca Belair Bianca Belair's team winning this. This is going to be the storyline. Now, if Damage Control and them wins here, I'll be slightly shocked, but definitely maybe even a good move here, for them not to go the typical return and win type of situation with Becky Lynch, but have her actually lose her first match and have her go after Bayley, which is what we know it's going to eventually happen. But there was also Bianca Belair also said something about how she wants to go against Charlotte and defeats her so she can defeat every member of the Four Horsewomen. I'm like, hey, I'm for that, but I don't know how protective that barrier is, that plot armor is for Charlotte under Triple H's reign for Bianca Belair to defeat Charlotte. Now, do I believe that Bianca Belair can defeat Charlotte? You damn right I do. But will she defeat Charlotte? Will she be booked to defeat Charlotte? Is a completely different story. But I'm actually going to officially go with Bianca's team here. I think they're going to win here, but I think that it's going to be some fuckery afterwards or something like that. Or, once we get to Raw or SmackDown, we're going to be building up of Becky Lynch and Bayley, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with that feud, of course. Then we get to the men's War Games. We have the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens going against the Bloodline. So they were dropping hints because we have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens that of a possible turn of Sami Zayn. I don't think they're going to pull it off now. I think it's too soon for the return of Kevin Owens and then immediately for Sami Zayn to turn on the Bloodline. But I do appreciate them dropping the hints of it with Kevin Owens talking to Sami Zayn outside saying like, hey, what would you do if, eventually Roman Reigns you're going to do something that will piss off Roman Reigns and he's just going to go off on you. What are you going to do then? And then having Sami Zayn turn around and lying to Jey Uso saying that he wasn't talking to anyone else. And then having, Jey Uso being the one to sit there and say like, don't trust Sami Zayn type of situation. But I think it's very too soon for them to pull the trigger here. I think maybe towards, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania type of thing, where we'll see Sami Zayn pull the trigger, and, then we'll see him and Kevin Owens going against the Usos eventually. But I don't think it's going to happen here. I think it's just going to be a lot of hints dropped as far as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but nothing is going to happen here. As far as who's going to win, it really could go either way. We could have the Bloodline, win and become more dominant, or we could pull off something here where, Sami Zayn kind of fucks up or something, or even Jey Uso fucks up because of Sami Zayn and have the Bloodline lose and kind of continue on that little bit of a thread of a possible breakup within the Bloodline. Because I feel like, this could definitely implode on the Bloodline with Roman Reigns losing the title and then I'm still waiting for Uso versus Uso. I'm going to wait until my hair turns gray, I'm sure I am. And then have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens going against the Usos. I guess the general line would be for Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens versus the Usos. I don't know what Solo's going to do, but, Solo might be Solo. And then have Roman Reigns, feuding, lose the title and then goes off to the sunset until he comes back as a part-timer or something like that. At SummerSlam or something, who knows. But I feel like this is the start of an implode of the Bloodline. They've been dominant for 3 years at this point. I know Roman Reigns was champion for 2 years, but I feel like the Bloodline's been going on for the longest of time that, I think WrestleMania is when they're going to implode. And I feel like it's going to start here. And I feel like Roman Reigns is going to get pissed off at either, Jey or Sami Zayn if something that happens. And then we just kind of continue it from here. I think what would make the most sense is for Jey to be the one that fucked up because of something with Sami Zayn. And then for Roman to get mad at Jey Uso and Jey Uso blaming Sami Zayn for something. I think that's what it could go. And then have, maybe at, towards the end before Sami Zayn turns on the Bloodline, then have Roman Reigns sit there and get pissed off at Sami Zayn or something like that. And then we have that eventual break between the honorary Uso and Kevin Owens. And then from there, the Usos going against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and then have something, between Jay and Jimmy fuck up, and then we have Uso versus Uso. Like, I would love for that to be at the WrestleMania. I would love for just a one-off Uso versus Uso match. Like, we don't need to go as deep as we had with the Bella Twins, where I wish you died in the womb. We don't need that, but I would love a fucking Uso versus Uso feud. We don't have to bring up people's wounds or dying or something like that, but just, just a good match. That's all I want from them too, is a really good match. But like I said, for here, like, we can have the Bloodline lose and it won't really mean anything. It's not going to it's not going to, do damage to Roman Reigns' title reign or anything like that. That's why I feel like this will be the perfect time for them to win, and then have a bit of a fuck up within the Bloodline that would kind of lead towards the eventual break, whether that happens at Royal Rumble or after or through the WrestleMania season or at WrestleMania. But I feel like this is the perfect time to have the Bloodline lose in War Games, where they should be together, but something happens and they fucking lose. Because they are creating that story of how it's the Bloodline. They've been together longer than anyone in WWE, because they're blood. They grew up together, this, that, and the third. And I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to, put out the message, like, even though they grew up together, stuff like that, people still fuck up. Just like, Thanksgiving. You come together with family and you realize, okay, you see who the fuck ups are of the family. But I'm going to officially be bold and go with the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, because I feel like something's going to happen within that will make the Bloodline lose. That's what I feel. And points on the Triple H booking system if Kevin Owens is the one if Kevin Owens pins Roman Reigns. Like, I don't want it to be Solo or the Usos or even Sami Zayn to get pinned. I want it to be Roman Reigns. That will set off Roman Reigns, and maybe he will be furious at every fucking body. Except for Baby Uso, because Baby Uso doesn't do anything wrong. He just stands there and, looks pretty with his blonde hair and his Uso face. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it should be Roman getting pinned here. And then he just goes off on every fucking body. And then the storyline from there will be the eventual implosion of the Bloodline. So when Roman Reigns loses the title, then he goes off to the sunset and lives happily ever after in part-time land. But I'm going to go here with the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens here to win. Overall, we only have 5 matches here, but like I said, with Full Gear, quality over quantity. Even though we have 5 matches, I feel like this is going to be a pretty good pay-per-view. I am so happy we're not doing this whole brand versus brand shit and the draft and stuff like that, because it didn't make sense. Because we had the one year where all of Raw were people who just came from SmackDown, and suddenly you're like, yeah, I'm Team Raw, even though like a week ago I was Team SmackDown. Like, I'm glad we're not doing that. Like I said, the only time it ever made sense was when you had NXT come in, because then you had the fucking newbies going against the team brand, the Raw and SmackDown. And so, yeah, that's when brand supremacy and all this other shit matters, because you had a third party coming in. But this whole, like, brand versus brand, it only worked when they had the titles. So when they had champion versus champion type of situation, I was all for that. You know what I mean? That's when the brand supremacy shit should happen, when it's champion versus champion. That's when it works. But when you have this whole, the traditional Survivor Series matches, and it was, these people who just came to SmackDown representing Raw going against SmackDown, who you were just like you were teaming up with like literally days ago, that part didn't make any sense. Now, I don't know if, this will be the end of the traditional Survivor Series. I liked Survivor Series. My favorite pay-per-views is actually the Royal Rumble match, but pay-per-view wise, it's WrestleMania. Of course, the spectacle, like I keep saying, it's my birthday. It normally happens around my birthday week. I'm the same age as WrestleMania, so I always look at WrestleMania as a big old birthday bash anyway. I love the Royal Rumble match. Pay-per-view, here and there, but I always love the Royal Rumble match, as far as my favorite matches of all. But I always like the traditional Survivor Series matches when it was about, the storyline, as far as, when we had Team WWE versus Team WCW, when we had Team Authority and stuff like that. And even with, we're not talking about the Jerry Lawler versus Doink the Clown type of John, but when we had the bit of a storyline of heels versus faces type of situation. So I don't know if this is the end of, like I said, the traditional Survivor Series matches. If we continue on with War Games, I'm okay with it. Kind of something, even it's 5 versus 5 anyway, and it's a little bit more than the traditional Survivor Series matches. But, I'm fine with moving forward as far as making Survivor Series War Games from now on. Because it seemed like we keep hearing about that they're, no longer doing the gimmicked pay-per-views, even though this is is somewhat of a gimmick pay-per-view, but it makes sense. Like, we're not throwing things together just to throw things together. But I'm fine with it. And on to, I know we have Deadline. I don't think we have a pay-per-view in December this year, unless I'm forgetting something. But I think we're all now just working towards, I think we do have a December pay-per-view. I'm not 100% sure. But, I'm fine with it. And, I'm hoping that, we are working towards Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season, and we will see how things go. So, what's your thoughts of Survivor Series? Are you feeling like it's going, the War Games? I can't do William Regal's War Games, of course, but, I'm hoping that it's a very good pay-per-view. I think it will be, though. But that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. I'm about to say pay-per-view podcast. I forgot. There's no more pay-per-views in WWE. There's premium live events. You gotta say it real bougie because that's how it come across to me. The premium live events that they have instead of pay-per-views now. But that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast, is what I was trying to eventually say. But thank you so much for listening. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bass from Wrestling Court Podcast and AttorneyMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next Podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Nando and Larry from Half Cave Podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling as well. And a special shout out to Straight Talk Wrestling, Top Rope Wrestling Talk, Top Rope Wrestling Talk, and Circle Debate. Also, special shout out to the Dirty Heels Podcast as well, who just celebrated their 3rd year anniversary. Be sure to check them out as well. Coming up next week, hopefully I'll be able to get my words out a little bit clearer in the next episode, but I will be reviewing, of course, what happens with Survivor Series War Games, and we're going to go on to match number 3 of the best of 7 between Death Triangle and the Elite, as well as we get towards, NXT Deadline. We also have Winter is Coming special for AEW, and then whatever pay-per-view is coming in December for WWE, which I forget what I think is one. I think it is one, but I'm not 100% sure. If there is no, special in December for WWE, I'm okay with it, because there's a lot of fucking holidays coming up anyway. Be sure to hop on Twitter and follow me at JDC137. That's JAYDE letter C 137. I feel like Jeff Jarrett every time I say that. And follow the podcast on Twitter at Wrestlebread as well. Be sure to click the links in the bio for the Facebook, the Instagrams, and the YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there as well. Leave a review. Let me know your thoughts of, Survivor Series and Full Gear and everything else. And until next time, guys, peace.